love everything about this. You're like, we're going live. When? Now. Right now.
Yeah,
Right,
I just went. I was like, screw it.
Seconds.
I think my audio's lagging.
What time do you think we're gonna go live? I think right now.
Yeah,
I think
I gotta fix some of the issues.
If I was gonna say anything, I would say right this second. Maybe less than any seconds.
Facts of life. What's up, guys? How are you guys doing? I haven't seen you in a minute.
In a week.
Yeah,
in a week.
Which is weird because we talk all the time usually. But Daniel, why don't you kick us off? I heard there was a tournament in Sweden. I know Brad's got a list he wants to go over, but what was the overall tournament? Talk to us about the terrain. Let us know. Are we gonna have an article about this from Jimmy, walking us through how
you already have an article about it from me.
Oh, fantastic! We'll put that up on the Gentleman Gaming website. We'll put a link up for the users or for the viewers, and but give us a blurb, man. Talk to us about the event.
Yeah, so it was a small event. It was a 26-player event on the wrong coast. So on the
wrong coast.
Yeah.
On the other side of the tracks.
Yeah. But it was super funny to play competitive again. I'm like so stoked. I have 3 weeks actually to my next tournament, which is also on the wrong coast in Gothenburg.
Also that's the Niels tournament.
I think Gothenburg it was one of the cities in Vikings where they attacked. I love that show on History Channel. You ever watch it?
It is awesome.
Daniel's like, I'm not gonna watch that show because I live that show. I am a Viking.
Are you talking about like Ragnar Lothbrok?
Yeah, Ragnar Lothbrok on the History Channel.
Yeah, I've seen all of it.
Yeah, they sacked like Gothenburg, I think, or they attacked it or something. Or Gothenburg maybe was one of the Swedish cities. I can't remember, but it was awesome.
It's a Swedish city.
Well, now
I don't
know.
What's up? So.
Yeah.
What did you play, Daniel? What was your list?
I played Grey Knights, which was a librarian, a brother captain, Drygo, 6 5-man units of strikes.
So you played your 8th. That's kind of your 8th list.
Nah, it was like a list.
It's kind of your 8th list. It's kind of like what you were playing at the end of 8th.
3 4-man units of servitors and 2 venerable dreads with missile launchers and twin masks.
Okay.
It went okay. I went 4-1. No one actually went 5-0 in the tournament, so I ended up 4th because I was like,
What'd you lose to? What'd you lose to?
I lost to a Blood Angels list that was very aggressive. Took too much table.
That's my
pushed
style.
Me too far back into my corner, and I had a hard time getting out of there. Really.
Did you go first or second against that Blood Angels player?
I unfortunately went second. I went second in all games, won 4 of them. So the list is actually designed, I think, to go second, but not against super pushy lists that want to, move fast up on the table and place flags on all the objectives. And I'm too hardly pushed back into the corner because they have too many threats. So I've actually had a similar problems against Space Wolf player in practice games. He plays Wolven. He just rushes up all over the table, and I have a hard time coming back from that. So in that game, I really wanted to go first. In all the other games, I was happy to go second.
I was about to say it's matchup dependent a lot, I feel, on that, but most of the time I like going second with my salamanders. Obviously, it depends on terrain and the matchup a bit, because some armies are very, very aggressive and do have a little bit of an advantage on first. But as a whole, I appreciate going second because I like to counter whatever my opponent does.
Yeah. But it was very clear to me, at least, that every player that ended up in like top 5, they had a plan for their list when it came to secondaries. So they all had the entire sort of game set on secondaries planned out. They played the same 2 secondaries in all games, and then the third secondary was like an alternate depending on opponent, if there was enough tanks or if they, depending on what they played.
Or if the mission.
Yeah, we keep talking about that though. You need to have a plan for those secondaries. You got to have a plan for them though. You got to have that planned out in your actual approach. Daniel, your bandwidth right now is just destroying your webcam. You not only look like you're you know, in some kind of like closet room in Eastern Europe, but you, I mean, there's just a missing hanger behind you right
Daniel
now.
didn't win the tournament, so he's actually in a cell right now.
He's in a cell,
in an undisclosed location in Finland. That's what they do.
I'm gonna practice
getting stabbed.
Practice
gulag. I love it.
Dude, I need to talk about the list. First off, let's talk about the list that won, or the top three. So you had only a 1 point difference between first and second, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so the first player was the only one undefeated going into turn 5, and he lost to the second player, but still came 1 point ahead of him in points, so he won, and the demon player came second.
Let's talk about this demon list. So your first place was a Salamanders White Scars list, and the third place was a pretty big dick Blood Angels list, just coming in with.
That's the one I lost to.
Yeah, I mean, he came in with all of the big hittings. You know, he had some big
tools.
His whole army's like basically a one big giant alpha strike. It was all of the go first and go nasty. So I get it. But second place was the list that really piqued my interest, because I was like, how is this thing winning? It was a 3 10-man units of Plague Bears. It was 2 units of Nurglings. It was 2 units of Screamers, a unit of Furies, 3 units of Plague Beasts, a Fluxmaster, I think, and then a big ass Lord of Change. And I have no clue.
Did this guy?
He was doing.
Okay, Daniel, tell me the truth. Did this guy show up to the tournament and go, "Listen, guys, I'm gonna open the book. If I roll a 4+, it's in the army. If I don't roll a 4+, it's not in the army." He just went through.
He had 266 points of reinforcement points also.
Love it.
I think he had 2 9-man units of Beasts of Nurgle.
Yeah, sorry, not the 3. Yeah. But
So the footprint of those 2 units means you can't get on objectives.
Yeah, he's just standing on 2 of them, right, blocking them out. Yeah.
And the rest of the army was playing secondaries.
And I'm assuming he's going banners, right? So he's getting those points, right? Holding that up, right?
He's fast. He's got a bunch of little fast stuff, and he's got some like extra.
Those units are playing.
He's playing the trade game with them. He's playing the trade game with them.
Engage on all fronts.
Yeah.
And playing secondaries and stuff.
And probably going on opponent objectives, forcing him to kill him off, right? Like forcing engagement on the other side of the board so that he can maintain his base, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually think if it was 4 objectives, I think he only placed his Beasts of Nurgle on 2 of them and just took his 40 points. If it was more objectives, he pushed them a little bit and then had like weaker units safeguarding his home objectives. And then he played secondaries all game.
I can see that with the speed of it. He's got. I can see him playing secondaries at that. It's just, it felt like it was light on killing, and I was surprised he didn't have the bigger units of Plague Bears for the -1 hit.
Yeah, but it's well balanced. It attacks the secondaries really well. It gets that 10 points pretty stable. Like he has a stable way of getting that 10 primary, and he's just trying to probably deny the extra 5 on his opponent and max secondaries. That's his whole approach, and I think it's actually really smart. I think it has.
And the thing is, it can play against anything. Is it's just got invulns, so
there's
you always have a chance to just be okay.
Yeah, which is like oh man, isn't that true right now for Harlequins with all the things Harlequins have, and then on top of that, they always have the invul where it's like, even when they're caught with their pants down or there's a problem in the approach or they made a mistake potentially, like that invo can always save you. Oh. I mean, when that happens in the game, I just cry when I'm not the Harlequin player.
But he also lost 1 game because
you said everyone lost at least 1 game, right?
Yeah.
There was
he lost 1 game, and that was, I think it was 4 objectives, and it was quarter deployment, and he met a really fast AdMech list. I just denied him movement, so he was just on 1 objective in his deployment zone.
Yeah, see, I think that's kind of where the list has a problem. That's the 4 one, right? Where it's like a cross, right, Daniel? Yeah. I think that one has a big.
In the scouring where everything's basically 8 inches off the middle.
Yeah, I think that's mission. I think the one Daniel's talking about is mission 5 actually, where there's only 1 in your deployment zone, and it's like
it was scouring. I didn't see the game, but
scouring is 0 in your deployment zone. It's literally 5 objectives and they're 4
Yeah.
8 inches off the middle, and then there's one in the middle.
So Daniel, can you go through the AdMech list real quick? I'm curious.
He had one of everything.
Okay.
So he had like Daedalus, Tech Priest or whatever they're called. He had 3 troops of different kinds, or at least 2 were different. He had some transports with 2 different types of priests, one with the staffs and one that shoots.
So it was a Swiss Army. It was a Swiss Army approach to Mechanicum, which is really smart, actually.
Like 5 horses or dogs, or the riders. He had like 5 guys with the wings. He had.
I love this.
MSU AdMech Army.
I like the idea of AdMech bringing all the different stuff. I mean, gauntlets and staves and the priests. I mean, just they've got so much good shit, man. So it's hard to not,
And he also had he allied with Custodes, so he had like.
Oh wow!
5
Okay.
Terminators and the Terminator character in this strike.
Was that like that was a
sec that could just deep down and move out?
Was he using that? Was he using that to threaten the backfield? Like keep it in reserves and just make sure his opponent was staying honest. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and that's a super resilient unit too. So wherever he's putting it, it's got a lot of play anyways. So that makes sense. Okay. Daniel, if you can get that list, get it and just post it in the chat later. Not right now, but post it in the chat later so anyone who's watching the show can see it. Because I just saw Alex ask the same question as me. What was in the AdMech list? So maybe other people would want to know. And I know you got the Necron list too. We're going to share the Necron 100 warrior, a bunch of warrior. We got some messages last week from a couple of viewers asking for that list, so we'll share that too.
Yeah. But it was super interesting. The tournament organizers, they went with the sort of recommendations from Games Workshop on the amount of terrain. So it was very terrain heavy, which was super interesting to play.
How similar was it to WTC's proposal?
It's probably pretty similar.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like Neil and his group did a really good job with that packet, and I talked to some local friends, and they all feel it's pretty heavy. But I think the moment you actually start playing it, I think people go, "Wow, this is actually really like, much more fun too." Like, it's a little heavy.
It was super fun. It was very interesting.
You get so many options of stuff though too. You know what I mean? We were actually considering for the tournament, like the way it goes is very, very heavy terrain. But only making it so that 2, like if you say a standard of 6, the 6 mission objectives, only 2 of the objectives are able to be scored from inside a piece of terrain, like on one side of the wall. So the format basically, so you still have most of the objectives in the open, but then there's lots of terrain, and then basically have each side be able to take one.
That's interesting.
So that way you always have to engage still. So you've got lots of options, you've got lots of tactical maneuvering, but you also have to actually expose yourself to take those extra objectives to get 15, to get more than your opponent kind of thing. Yeah. You have to go do something.
Yeah.
In my article, I did a full breakdown of all the sort of armies. There were primarily Imperial keyword and KS keyword on the tournament. There was 1 NIDS player and 1 Gene Stealer Cult player. That's about it. So no Eldari at all. So no.
I'm not surprised.
No,
I'm not surprised. Yeah. What about Harlequins? Any Harlequin players?
No Harlequins.
That's a miss.
Really?
That's a miss in the meta. Okay.
Harlequins are very good right now.
I mean, it's a super small sample, right? It's 26 players.
Yeah, we get that.
In a super local meta
and on top of that, of Sweden. And on top of that, on the wrong coast, right? So.
I mean, exactly, the wrong coast. Or as Neil would call it,
3 people from the right coast, and then the rest of the people from the wrong coast.
Yeah. No, we'll be sure to put that article up on the site, and we'll have a link here on the Facebook page. So, and we'll put it on. If we put this on YouTube, I'll put it on YouTube as well, so that anyone watching this could get that information. But I think ultimately, I think the takeaway, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel, but the takeaway here is you really have to design a list that kind of plays towards the missions, keeps the secondaries in mind, and figure out how you're going to approach primary. You don't always have to try to get the 15. If you can guarantee the 10 and stop your opponent.
If you can play on 40, you'll probably win. If you can guarantee 40, you'll probably win anyway, I think.
But here's a question on this then, Daniel. With the thing, there's a lot of people, we're talking about what you're taking engage almost every time. It's like an auto take. Raise the Banners is one of the ones I really like. But a lot of the things, and then of course it depends on the mission, because a couple of the mission ones are just laughable, where 3 points per take the one in your thing. Yeah. You're like, I'm just gonna put in 15, all right? But the question is, do you go for one of your mission objectives? Do you take something easy like an auto, like Scramblers is effectively an auto, but it's only 10. So if you and I are playing and we know that it's going to come down to the wire because both of us are going to score 40, 45 in the primary, and it's going to come down to the secondaries, do you choose something more risky but that can get 15 as opposed to that auto attack?
So I took 50 points on Scramblers during the tournament because I have 3 units of servitors. Yeah. So, I mean, they also scored me a lot of quarter points.
Exactly. So those guys, the 28 points of secondaries, got it.
Yeah. And they also typically score me a little bit on, hold more as well, because they come in from different quarters and move on to shit. And people in my list don't really have time to take care of them. So for me, they were MVP in every game, those 84 points of models. But I hear what you're saying, and I'm also debating it. I think, because I picked Scramblers in all games, I effectively were 30 points behind, and that's the 30 points I didn't. That cost me the podium, like the third or the second place. I was 30 points behind the other guys. So the way I designed my list was not to lose, right? I designed it to not win big, but to win comfortable in all games. That was sort of the idea. And instead of gaining those 5 points on a more riskful play, I designed my list to play disruptive on my opponent's objectives instead.
I can see that.
So I was super happy getting 79. That's sort of what I played for. But I wanted to play strikes with dynamic insertion on my opponent's objectives, making sure they didn't get 79, that they maybe got, 68 or something, because I took away objectives every now and then.
I think your strategy probably plays better the longer the games are, or the longer the tournament goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're looking more safer. I'm worried a little bit about maybe even differential games, WTC type stuff. If I'm playing another game where basically if I write in that I think I'm going to get a 10-10, do I just take the safe choice, or do I, if Alan and I are playing right now, do I try to push? But then you always have the chance that I get an 8 instead of the thing. So
I wouldn't worry about not podiuming either, Daniel. You're either first or you're last, so don't worry.
I mean, for me with this list, I was super happy with 4 and 1, but I was obviously aiming for second or third place and not fourth place. That sucks, but
how, did you guys do the
how much
10
did painting
points a game on for paint, guys?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that. How much did painting impact?
10. It impacted some players a bit, so people got between 10 and 0, and then depending on how much, how iffy the painting was, some people got like 5 points instead of 10. So it impacted a bit. It didn't impact anyone on top 5, of course, because all of them had painted armies.
Everyone came painted, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was overall? Yeah. Your score was overall, right? It's like overall points?
It was 10 points per match.
Okay. So if you won the match, you got 10 points, basically.
No,
not for painting. Not for painting. How did they do first, second, and third? Overall score?
Yeah, no. So it was win, draw, loss in all games, and then the tiebreaker was overall score.
Okay. Sounds good, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the lists. Yeah. I like the breakdown. We'll be sure to put up the article. I think this leads to another topic, though. What do you guys recommend people do to build their army lists right now? We're sharing a lot of lists. People are asking us for lists, but my honest opinion from the beginning is if you didn't write the army list, you're not going to truly understand it, even if you get in, let's say, a couple games with the list. If you pick it up off the internet, it's going to be hard for you to really grasp it.
I'm not going to lie, dude. I feel like checklist my list now. I basically say that I need a minimum amount of certain things, battlefield rules. I think you have to have 2 or 3 things that can move quickly to get up and immediately contest. You need some things that can obviously interact with objectives and secondaries, like Daniel's guys, servitors, he said, but like you need things that can outflank, you just come in reserve.
Oh, that's a
and you
perfect.
need
So that's a perfect point, Brett, and that's kind of where I'm going with this. Like when you play chess, right? The bishop moves a certain way, the queen moves a certain way. Everything kind of has its purpose. The horse moves in an L, all those things, right? When you design an army list today, you kind of have to have, I think, three things. I think you need to have a foundational aspect where you're securing backfield, midfield objectives. You have to have a whole aspect of how you're going to stop your opponent from scoring, and that might be coming from reserves, that might be threatening the board edges, that might be, deep striking, that might be pre-game movement. It could be any of those type of things. And then I think the third thing you need is a really, really sound strategy on what secondaries you're going to pick and how you're going to execute them. And I think if you're picking up an army list off the internet, or you're picking up an army list that was at an event, or you're listening to a lot of the, competitive content creators out there who are sharing content and sharing who's doing well with what, do you think people are going to be able to pick up that army and truly master, the tactical generalship?
If the army is Space Marines, yes. But if the army is
no, this is a great conversation. Let's talk through it. Yeah.
It's still something
What about White Scars then?
Really...
Let's break that down. What about White Scars then? For example, I would say White Scars are more complex than Iron Hands. Would you agree or disagree?
Super good.
They're probably more advanced. It's probably a little bit harder to play them, but they're still so powerful right now. It's
sure, but I'm saying they're
still silly,
They're forgiving. They're forgiving.
If you're looking to win a tournament as opposed to just, or do the maximum, you still have to understand what you're using.
Yeah.
And the thing is you and I might have completely different. We might be 1,500 points the same and 500 points different on exactly the same list. We've done that multiple times. Talking,
But do you think, Brad, if someone builds their own army off of the army type that they like or they know the best, and they use kind of the archetype I just talked about, they build their own list to essentially achieve those goals, would they be at an advantage or at a disadvantage if they did that versus pick up an army list off the internet, build the models, and go to the tournament? Which option do you think
you always
better?
Want to make your army from the ground floor. It doesn't matter if somebody's helping you, you're making it yourself, you're talking to people, somebody's coaching you with it. Whatever way you do it, it should always be your army. Because the thing is that you might like certain things, like Dreadnoughts, you really like the way they play. I might just like all kind of bikes. It's just the things that I know how to move better with, and those are going to be the things you're going to play better with those. So if you just grab someone else's style that's not your style, you're never going to do as well. You're going to do well if you got a great army, but
I think you're also missing out what I think is a key aspect of designing your army list. I think you should spend a lot of time thinking about how you deny your opponent secondaries by not having, too much vehicles, too much characters, too much. So when the opponent comes to the table, he might know the two he wants to play, but the third one, he wants to take that off you, right? So he wants to kill your vehicles, for example. So don't bring more than 4 vehicles.
Okay, so you're talking about mitigation, something we did a lot of in ITC format here, as you mentioned, corporate 40K, Daniel, where we would try to design armies that minimize
either that or go all in. Certain armies can't. The only thing is that certain armies just
Grey
can't.
Knights and Abhor the Witch.
Yeah, or say the truth, the IG and most secondaries. If you make the best IG list you could possibly make, you're probably giving up 2-ish secondaries. I mean, you could possibly limit, but you're going to bring. You don't want to just limit your damage so that your opponent doesn't bring it down. But if there's an option between bringing 4 tanks and 5 tanks, I'll probably bring 4 instead of 5.
So then would it be safe to say then, if you're playing an army list where you think it's a good list, you think it's achieving kind of the archetype, but it's giving up a lot of secondaries potentially as well, would it be then advantageous for the player to really fine-tune his approach to secondary achievement, or would it be better for them to really focus on primary achievement then? If you're already knowing you're going to give up some secondaries and you've already had somewhat of a relatively good plan for secondaries, should you focus more on primaries or polish up your secondary approach even more?
I would literally go with make my best army I could possibly make, and looking at my points as opposed to trying to deny, because I want to make the best army I can make first. If I'm done making the best list I can make, taking something small out maybe makes it 12 instead of 15 max for a secondary for my opponent. But before I do that, I'm gonna figure out the best way for me to score every point I can possibly score, and then at the very end, see if I can tweak.
I would agree with
giving
that.
away
I
secondaries.
would agree with that. I would agree with that. I think Daniel brought up a good
That's sort
point.
of how I think as well. So
I agree with that.
I build the best list, and then I look at it and I go, no, I don't need the third of this tank. I can remove that and put something that does the similar, but is something else, that is infantry instead. Just to mitigate the obvious choices. And if you do that, you can also, if someone picks that, you could possibly hide one piece as well. And then you're down to like, I'm only getting 9 on vehicles,
Yeah,
which is huge. That could be the difference in the game. If you're,
that's definitely the difference between a win
that's
and a
why
loss.
I'm so big on. I'm always so weird on taking those secondaries, kill characters, kill vehicles.
I hate them so much.
It feels like they're a trap because you and I are playing that right now, and all of a sudden you go, well, this is going to be a super tight game. I'll just hide my vehicles, not even do damage anymore, and make sure you don't get these last 3 or 6 points. It feels like a trap sometimes because you know that you're getting those points. I mean, let's be honest, most of the secondaries we're taking are literally holding the board. Everybody's taking. If you're playing well, you're playing synergistic secondaries. You're taking flag banners. You're taking engage. Because you're literally already doing.
You're already going towards objectives. You're already taking mid board. You're already in those areas, so it makes sense. Yeah, it's not like your opponent has like some strategy necessarily that's going to make you not want to do the basic criteria.
They can't stop that really, and that's what I look for in secondaries. Secondaries where I don't have to engage or interact with my opponent. Just stuff I can do on my own. I don't care what you're doing.
Or you could be like Sebastian in chat said. He's the only person that's ever decided to fail getting scrambled.
Yeah, that was funny actually. I ha-ha'd it. I think.
I'm just assuming he just forgot.
No, I think chat.
Like, no, I brought 0 infantry.
I don't have any infantry. I think chat definitely gets where we're going with this. I see Horton on there as well talking about how this edition is the hardest he thinks for net listing, and I would agree. That's why I'm bringing it up. I think really designing and we're seeing that in these tournaments. That Demons Army we talked about earlier, and the AdMech Army that you talked about earlier, and we'll post that up on the article that goes up on our website. But some of these armies I think are very unique and very different, and I just can't see someone picking them up. But just to finish this off, Daniel, you brought up a good point. If you're playing Space Marines, might be easier. So what codexes do you think are some of the easiest codexes to pick up a net list, and what are some of the medium ones, and what are some of the really difficult ones you think in terms of factioning?
Yeah, I mean, there's different degrees of complexity in Space Marine codexes, but I would say they are the easiest one to pick straight off the internet. The hardest ones I think are well taught through soups. Like I'm building right now, Astra, AdMech, and Grey Knights with an assassin, and I mean I have a very specific game idea for how that army is going to be played. I don't know if it works yet. I'm going to practice for 3 weeks before the next tournament and see if I'll bring it. But that list, that kind of soup needs, you need to understand how it's going to be played and what secondaries I'm running for to be able to take that and play it.
It's got multiple moving parts for sure.
Yeah. And so many different types of stratagems that are situationally really good, which means you need to understand all the combos in it. So
that ties into exactly what Ellen was saying before. I can't tell you how often I'm playing around with someone and we'll talk about the game and I'll be like, well, why didn't you use this strat or this strat? And they're like, oh, I didn't even know that strat existed that way or could be played that way. And you're like, yeah, that's why I feel like you have to really know an army to be able to perform at a high level though.
Yeah, and I do agree with Daniel though. I think you could pick up a Space Marine list relatively easy. You could pick up, a lot of different types of guard lists. I think also maybe a little bit easier than other lists. But like a Mechanicum army would be very difficult for someone just to pick up off the internet, or like any of the Eldari builds. Gene Stealer Cult would be really hard. I think Eldar right now would be hard just because they're not very good. Their point efficiency went down significantly with the point increases, and the way the game is played, movement isn't really celebrated anymore as much as it was. The table's smaller. Getting around the board with Quicken and moving around is not as vital as it was before. Weapon ranges are a lot more efficient because of the size of the table. So I think picking up armies like Harlequins, Dark Eldar, even if they had a good army list, would be difficult. I think Harlequins maybe the best out of the group, but still you need to have really good generalship to flagship that army. I don't see someone picking up that army list and just showing up to a tournament with it. So I think Sisters are in that as well. Sisters are a very difficult army, I think, to just pick up.
I'm so terrified of Sisters with the new guns.
So good.
I'm so afraid of this.
But I think that's a valid, very good differentiation that Daniel made earlier too. So that's interesting to talk through. But Brad, did you want to go through the banners? I know we had a question around how to execute on the banners.
I was going to wait. I literally think that banners are super good secondary, but you have to choose it in the right missions. For one, I only choose it in any of the ones that have 2 objectives effectively in my deployment zone.
Yeah,
or right
5 objectives or more on the table also.
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
It has to be 5 or more, and at least 2, because I want to be able to raise at least 2 turn one, probably turn 3, or sorry, probably a third one wherever my 4 deployers go. And the thing is that I'm looking for a minimum of 10 because I like banners so much because they work like old school corrupted objectives. They stay rows until your opponent takes them from you. Correct. So even if there's nobody there, you score another round at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So I feel like I always have those 2 objectives, and then I get a turn or 2 a lot of times with whatever that first objective that I went after. So I get 3+ points, 1 or 2 turns, and then I also get those 2 the entire game. But then I also, because we're like same thing that Daniel was saying, I almost always come with some reserves and try to take whatever my opponent's weakest objective is in their side. So then I also will raise that banner a lot of times.
I just love that if I had $1 for every time Brad said he liked a rule in 9th edition and the rule came from Age of Sigmar, I would have enough money to buy a gargantuan sub and like a bag of chips and like a Diet Coke from like Jersey Mike's. I just love that because like Brad's like, I don't play Age of Sigmar, and every rule he likes is like an Age of Sigmar rule. I like that I have that objective for until someone takes it. So
I just love that. The thing is I'm actually getting banners, like I'm actually getting model things, little flags done to show that I'm raising the banners and stuff like that.
Who's doing all this work for you,
I think
man?
you need to practice playing banners a lot before you choose it for your army.
100%.
For example, my Grey Knight army hated banners. It was like, yeah, I can do a lot of stuff with my paladins and my characters that are my backfield. So they're not going to do it. And my strikes want to deep offensively and they die. So they're not going to do it. So for me, banners 100%. Were horrible.
100% you have to have an army designed. But I see the other problem I see with banners, Daniel, and I love you brought that up. So obviously if your army isn't designed to like get the banners and survive a turn, then that might be a problem. Yeah. The other issue I see is people who take banners tend to leave the unit that raised the banners on the objective. You don't need to do that. You raise it and then go do things. You can block out the objective and block out the
objective. But they also want to hold more objectives. So
correct. But you don't have to always do it with the same unit you used. I see a lot of test games I have, people dedicate that unit and that just sits there.
No,
they're like, oh, it's my banner unit. No, just
and
leave.
I put another unit.
Bring in another unit. Bring in a tank. Bring in something from the backfield to sit on it after that. You don't need to keep the same unit there. And think about that as you're playing the game. You should be cycling off objectives, grabbing them, scoring them for a turn, holding them for a turn, leaving, grabbing another objective, pushing field, creating a differentiation in a space between you and your opponent.
We were just doing that. The thing is I was playing a show. Basically, you would have loved this, Danny. We played 3 tables under a tent next to the pool on Saturday.
Ooh. Oh, nice.
But I was showing. We were playing with 2 of my other buddies. We were playing Chaos the next day. Played a lot of 40K this weekend, and we threw down. And I was basically showing. Sometimes it's better to just if you get a chance to get your opponent that 0 a turn. That could be the game, man. Sometimes it's worth, sacrifice. It's knowing when to trade too. With what Al was saying, it's just sometimes, man, if you see the opportunity where my opponent left me, be light on 2 or 3 objectives, and I can just contest them and just go, hey, you start your turn at turn 3 at a goose egg. That could be just the entire game right there.
Even just a 5, it's a game changer.
Yeah, even 5 is a big deal. Yeah, that's how I won my last game. We just played a game. Me and Cisco just played a game, Plague Marines or Death Guard versus Raven Guard, and I only won the game because I was able to goose him on 1 turn. I needed that last 5 points. I had to go for a Hail Mary to get him off to like 1 last objective, and it panned out for me. But it was literally like that was it. I needed that to win. So.
I'm not gonna lie, I really do enjoy some of these like super crazy, unbelievably aggressive missions. Like the Scouring is just crazy time. 5 objectives in a clump, effectively. Go for it.
Oh, Cisco's on the
there he
screen.
is.
It's like,
Cisco's
boo.
up.
You know that was fun, Cisco. Don't even lie. It was so thematic, too. He had 3 saves to make, and I had D3 damage on the weapon, and he had 3 wounds left. So I'm like, let's make it funny. I hope you pass 2 saves. So he ends up saving 2 of them, failing only 1, and I'm like, here it is, baby, D3. And I got that 6, and I was like, yeah. It was pretty fun, but yeah, no. Again, Brad, I love that you like aggressive missions. You know, AOS has some very amazing ones where you can literally run up to your opponent and just burn their objectives right at the start of the game. So I'm glad they've done that.
I mean, that's
the Grand Tournament pack has that as well. Race objectives. Yeah. It's in the pack.
Yep. All right, when we say raise, we mean R-A-Z-E. That was the best. Is
raise.
No, Corey and I had the biggest. We just kept arguing when you could raise the objectives, or when I said raise the objectives, because I was talking raise the banners, and he was talking raise destroy them. And he's like, it's in the command phase. I'm like, it is not in the command phase. It's the movement phase.
Like, no, it's in the command phase.
We're both holding the book up, pointing to different things now. Like, I am 100% correct.
I love
I'm
that,
like,
man.
this needs to be changed.
So, Brad, how are you? Have you been keeping up with the news at all with COVID and what's going on? And I was assuming that you'd be a little bit more excited. I'm not getting texts from you, but it looks like things are dying down. Well, not dying down. It looks like there's riots everywhere to make things go back to normal. So there's.
I was this last like 4 or 5 days. I've been dying down, so I haven't been really communicating with anybody in the universe. So.
No worries. But I for the first time, I know on this podcast, I've been very, I would say, pessimistic at the idea of events coming back anytime soon. And now, given some of the statistics that's coming out and some of the stuff I'm seeing in my job, plus also that's being shared with the public and what's going around the whole world. I actually am very optimistic that we will see events come back relatively much faster than I thought. I would say. I'm.
Do you think so on that? Because
I'm at least beginning of next year.
I think so, Daniel. I think Adepticon may actually happen. I was questioning whether we would have an Adepticon 2021 and like how much of an impact that would be on the community. I mean, I would literally cry for like a day straight if there was no Adepticon.
Are you still hardcore that LVO? Do you think LVO is going to make it?
So I don't think LVO is going to make it, and the only reason why is I think Las Vegas generates so much money from the casinos and everything being open that I don't think they're going to rush conventions and events too quickly. I don't think they want to go back in the COVID cycle at all. So I think they're going to be very, very careful. So I would be a little surprised to see LVO happen, given the fact that like any corporate event that I usually go to, like Salesforce and stuff like that, all of that's canceled right now for 2021. I would be a little bit surprised to see Vegas do events just because it would jeopardize their actual revenue stream, which currently they have open, right? They have open restaurants that serve food, even if they have a bar, and they have open all the casinos and tables. You can't sit next to anyone. They have it all separated. And bars, like Just bars, are closed still. But I would be surprised if they get the event back up by January for LVO.
Yeah.
But I think outside of Vegas, I think other areas, we're already seeing a lot of uprest from the communities and from people, given some of the statistics that's coming out now about the fatality rates, about treatment pathways, what they're doing to treat the virus and stuff. I think there's a lot of positive stuff out there, which is good for everyone. It's not just a Warhammer 40K thing or a tournament thing. It's good for just life. I am going to miss working from home, but outside of that, I think everything else will be really, really cool. I'm really sick and tired of like scanning a QR code when I go to a restaurant. I'd love a menu. So
that is weird, by the way. That's the funny thing is I opened my phone the other day just to look for a page of something, and my last 5 things were all menus from different places that I had been looking at.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm excited about that. Daniel, I know this is not relative for you, or you're not relating to this.
I mean, it's relative for us in a sense. I mean, we still have the 50 people group ban, so. Hopefully we're going to change that. There was some talk about 500 people in certain events, which like cultural events, which 40K most definitely is because we paint and shit.
Yeah. I wonder if they could do something. You know how like ATC has the fairgrounds and all that kind of stuff that they've had before?
Yeah.
I wonder if anybody like that will be able to. Corey was actually saying, he said something about an outdoor event, but that made me think, is there anybody that has the capacity to run a fairground type tent?
So ATC has done it in an airport hangar They had an airport hangar the first year, massive, huge venue. I mean, their regular venue is also really, really big as well. I wouldn't be shocked if they do it. And Tennessee is one of the states pushing back pretty hard. So I would be shocked if ATC didn't happen next year, even if COVID, if COVID, as long as COVID continues as it's going right now, I would be shocked they don't have it. But funny story with ATC, Brad, were you there that year? That was the very first year. It was very similar to ETC Poland. Our last round, everyone was drenched. I had a gray T-shirt on. It was so wet, it looked like a black T-shirt. Like I was just soaked.
Are we talking Poland hot?
Oh, it was Poland hot. No, this was a metal aircraft container in Tennessee in July.
Sounds fantastic.
It was 100 degrees outside. Okay, so last round, I was captain of the team. We were kamikazes back then, and we had to pick tables. And I'm like, I'm first defender, and everyone's like, dude, you're playing orcs. What are you doing? They're like, okay, Tao's playing you. I'm like, cool. We're playing on that board over there, right by the giant fan. I'm gonna play right next to the fan. Just like
Poland. Dude, one of my favorites was. Do you guys remember the Prague year for WTC, ETC, whatever we're talking here?
Yeah.
You were there, Dave.
Told this story.
Where there was a couple tables that were right under the skylight that were basically the same.
That was in Prague.
Yeah.
That was in Prague.
Just burning.
It was horrible.
It was insane. It was like everywhere was fine except for this group of tables right underneath the Death Star beam, just killing you.
It was the same in Poland. You didn't pair based on the table. You paired to be close to the fan.
100%.
Yeah. Same thing in Poland. Yeah, same thing in Poland.
No, it's really bad for you.
Same exact thing. Yeah, we did that
like
at ETC.
It's your assault army versus my shooting army, and there's no terrain.
Don't even care.
Yeah, there's a fucking fan, right? Yeah, this is where we're playing.
Yeah, we're doing an event this weekend on Saturday here in Chicago. It's at someone's house. It's like a small little invite only event. Gary Frank's running it, and it's in his backyard. So he's doing something in his backyard. So I think these things are happening, Corey. I don't know when a big event's going to be able to do it anytime soon. But if you think about it, a lot of the big events we attend are massive halls that could easily account for it. Like I know California is going backwards with COVID a little bit. They're very, very strict on it. But the venue that Reese and Frankie have got for SoCal, for example, I mean, they could easily put like 12 feet of space in between each table. I mean, it's a massive. It's almost like an aircraft carrier. It's huge. So a lot of these events could do it. I think it's just the state regulation that stops them from being able to still, as you know. So, but things are going the right direction.
And then I have to figure out how to get there.
That's true.
Brad, the bubble boy.
Exactly.
That's a Brad.
I'm like, I'm either going to be in my bubble or I'm just going to. Basically, I figured that I could do trains everywhere because they just have lots of space between people and not super cramped up. And they don't have recycled air that wants to kill me.
Yeah, I'm hoping you hop on a train to Chicago soon. Sometime this month, we can get in some games and stream them.
100% is all you. You just have to give me times.
I always give you times. I give you times all the time. I said
yes, Saturday. But they're usually. Why are you not here now?
Yeah, I do. I do. Daniel, I'm always like, I call Brad sometimes, and if I get his voicemail, I'm like, hey, I'm coming over in like 30, so I'll see you in a little bit. And like we live 4 hours away, so it's like really funny. It's like, what do you mean you're coming over in 30?
Like, wait a second, what's going on? And I remember absolutely nothing nowadays. Now, so I have to sit there and go, is Alan coming over in 30 minutes?
Wait.
What's going on here?
Did we make plans? I forgot. No.
Son of a bitch.
But yeah, anyways.
Exactly, Corey. We're gonna call it a protest.
If you call it a protest, Corey, we can easily have 250,000 people. So
yeah, exactly. We can have all of the people.
Everyone has to just bring along with their army a sign that they want to use. The more liberal,
arbitrary shit they want to protest about.
I mean, I would just be like, I'm not against anything. I'm just here for the violence.
I'm going to bring a sign that says defund COVID. I'm just going to have a big sign, defund COVID.
Defund COVID.
Hold that up. That's what I'm protesting.
COVID's had terrible leadership. This is ridiculous.
Horrible.
Who's managing this virus?
I've hated everything that COVID has done. I think we covered the tournament in good detail, and I know Daniel, you're going to release the article on the site. We'll put that up there. And then we talked about building army lists and constructing army lists. anything else you guys want to cover today, or talk through? Things that you're looking forward to or interested in? I know, Brad. We're building that salamander. I'm building a salamander army now, as well as your salamander. Your person who's building your salamander army. So we'll probably. You know what we should do, Brad? We should have a streaming episode where my salamanders fight your salamanders.
I'm on it.
And we compare. By the way, do you know what I'm doing?
We just go who looks better.
Yeah,
that's it. That's who wins the combat.
Yeah. who wore it best? We'll have a who wore it best, survey for fans only page. You know what I did for the bike captain?
People might be thinking they're going to get something different if they went to the fans only page. Wait, we are gentlemen gaming after dark.
Where we do the calendar, right?
Yeah, that's where we do the calendar. You know what I did, Brad? I texted you. I'm like, hey, so I'm pretty sure this bike captain in the Salamanders list is like an auto take all the time, right? And you're like, yes. So then what did Alan do? Alan chopped up his actual Forge-World Vulcan model and put him on a bike. So like the real Vulcan. Is like,
are we talking about the toughness 7 bike captain with -1 to wound and shield and hammer?
Seems like an auto take, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. He seems like an auto include.
Yeah. He's been really. You know what I've actually thought about though? When the Primaris chaplain on a bike, the guy that they had the little video for, I might swap him out for that because he can have all the same stuff and he has Lindy's.
Chaplain biker.
So still T7. I mean T7 and -1 to wound with a 4-up invuln and the 2-up save is pretty good. You're like, I'm gonna shoot at that guy. I've had times where I literally drive that guy in an objective over here later in the game, and you're like, I'm gonna kill that guy to take that objective, and you're like, wait a second, what is he again? Yeah, he's sitting behind this forest, so he's -1 to hit, T7, -1 to wound with an invuln. And you're like, nah, he can just have that objective. I'm gonna go over here instead.
Yeah, I figured I'm gonna just use Vulcan as the actual model. So I'm pretty excited. But no, I'm looking forward to it. We got to get in some games for sure. Daniel, if you can take a train over as well, we can get some games in with you too.
C train.
I would love to. I'll take the C train.
You know what? You know what we should do? We should actually send Elon Musk some messages to create a tunnel from Stockholm to Chicago, just like a tunnel. Make it really quick. Travel right through the Earth. You know,
600 miles an hour.
Why not? Why not 1,000? Why not 1,000?
Teleportation devices instead. But
that seems like
totally fine as well.
I mean,
no matter what though, somehow you would actually teleport, but your army would still get broken in the process somehow.
Why am I now picturing that movie, The Core, that horrible movie where they created like unobtainium? And they have to like go through the crust of the earth. This is what I'm thinking about now. I can't stop.
I tried to watch it quite recently actually, and had to turn it off after 20 minutes because it sucked so much.
Yeah, you know, my wife often challenges me to like who can watch a shittier movie like for the longest period of time. It's like a game we play, so I got to pull that one up next time. I'll definitely win. Put that on.
You should actually go. It does have my favorite scene, not the unobtainium. They had a scene where the guy's like has to go out and do something, and the temperature was 6,000, and his suit only protected him up to 4,000. He's like, oh no, if he goes out there, he's gonna die. And I go, no, if he goes out there, he'll be instantaneously gone.
Yeah, just be like,
it's not like he's gonna, because in the movie he walks out, he's like,
he'll be like one of those cartoons
like 2,000 degrees
where like the chicken gets burned to a cinch, and you just see like burned little leg marks.
You're like what's the Happy Smurf giving you his gift? Poof. It's gone.
No, that sounds awesome. All right, well, I think we covered today's podcast, guys. Thank you guys for joining. It's always a pleasure.
We were in the zone.
Oh. Tune in next week. We're going to have another podcast. We're trying to make sure our podcasts are every Tuesday, anywhere between 1 p.m. Eastern time to, I don't know, 3 p.m. Eastern time, somewhere in that time period, given the fact that we all have other things going on in our lives. So we'll try to figure that out. And then be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page if you can, and you'll see some of our 9th edition reaction episodes. We just did one with the boys, which is pretty awesome. So I recommend to go check that out if you want to listen to some cool stuff. So other than that, take care. See ya.
Dance, baby, dance.